This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage.
The people who dislike me are gamblers, low-level gangsters, the fathers of daughters everywhere, not vigilante bounty hunters willing to pick a fight with the Federation.
Oh, a lovely self-pardon. But we both know that Beverly would never permit this.
Who do you think taught me all this? When she's not behind me kicking my ass, she's right beside me. Equal partners, trying to do some good in a goodless, imperfect universe.
That's how I know you're lying.
But because you know her so well. When was the last time you even spoke to my mother?
Welcome back, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're here to talk about Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage. I am one of your hosts, John.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek.
And rounding out this group of Red Alert podcasters, I am Chris.
Red Alert. This was a good episode, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, and shockingly, yes.
Yes, it really was.
Yeah.
It was good.
Lots of fun, lots of excitement.
Good to see old Captain Vadik, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting her to stand up on the chair and go, if any one of you mother effers from Pulp Fiction.
Yes, move. Yeah, I think you missed one word. I was waiting for you to finish the full.
Okay.
He ellipses it, okay? He allows our imaginations to fill it in.
Yes, exactly.
Amanda Plummer.
Amanda Plummer,
yes,
indeed.
In this episode. Yes, of course, we're going to be talking spoiler-filled detail of Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage. Go watch the episode if you haven't watched it yet before John spoils anything more.
Well, that's true,
that's true. But we will, of course, be spoiling it in our podcast right here.
Yes, but before we get into our spoiler-filled discussion, head on over to our new website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to any Federation or Romulan supporting podcast player of your choice. Mm-hmm. And a big shout out to our Patreon supporters who have helped contribute towards our new revamp of the website and the back end of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hasten to add.
Yeah, it looks really good. Thank you so much to all of you that have been supporting us over the last 9 years of podcasting. 9 years, guys.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Almost a decade.
Yeah. That's coming.
And I don't feel a day over 41 years.
It is actually our 9th anniversary in February, just by the way. So sorry, just to be really clear, it's
That's
just gone
true,
our
actually.
9th anniversary. So
we're in our 10th year.
All right. Yeah, we can keep moving up the years if you want to. But we do want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your feedback. Please make sure you email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. From now on, for Star Trek Picard, we'll be recording a little bit later. We're recording after the episodes come out, basically. So we'll be recording either on Friday evenings or on Saturday. So you have a bit of time to watch the episode, getting your thoughts about Star Trek Picard. But that's not the only show we're covering. We're also covering The Last of Us on HBO and Sky Atlantic, or Now TV in Europe. So if you're watching that show, listen to our podcast on tvpodcastindustries.com and send your feedback for that. And we're also talking about Star Wars The Bad Batch every week. So we're talking about Star Wars, Star Trek, the biggest HBO show at the moment. And finally, of course, you got to throw in one more there. We're also talking about Marvel because we went to the cinema last week and discussed Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania as well, the 31st MCU movie, because we've talked about every Marvel movie, I think, at this stage.
Yes.
And every Marvel TV show. So lots and lots of content there, all available, all split out really well on the website on tvpodcastindustries.com. So you can check all of those out.
Excellent stuff. Get those ears attuned, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. But Derek, what are some of the episode details for episode 2, Disengage?
Well, of course, the show is based on characters created by Gene Roddenberry. The executive producers for the show are Kiva Goldsman, Michael Chabon, Alex Kurtzman, and Christian Bale. This episode was written by Christopher Monfett and Sean Tretta. Christopher wrote 3 episodes of Picard Season 2, and this is his first of 2 episodes for Season 3 as well. Sean Tretta is a co-executive producer on the show and worked on 12 Monkeys with Terry Matalas as well. I know Terry likes to work with the same team on lots of his shows. So,
12 Monkeys the show or 12 Monkeys the film?
12 Monkeys the show. 12 Monkeys the movie by Terry Gilliam.
Ah, yes.
It's another Terry.
Different Terry.
Yes.
All the Terrys are the same to me.
But the show, of course, was based on that movie, which was based on another book. So, So there are various different versions of it. But this
so it's like the
show.
Terry. This Terry was based on the other Terry, which was based on
the
Terry
cascading effect.
There you go. There you go. But Sean, of course, worked there on the 12 Monkeys TV show and here now on Picard, the final season as well. So a good reunion for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this episode was directed by Doug Arniakowski, who, of course, directed episode 1 of Star Trek Picard as well. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage?
Sure. 2 weeks ago, Jack Crusher was under investigation from the Fenris Rangers. After paying them off with weapons, they secretly reported Jack's whereabouts to an unknown third party. Since then, he's been on the run, system to system, all the time with greater threats on his tail. But none greater than the ship that has caught up to him, Jean-Luc Picard, and Will Riker on his ship, the Elios. While some quick thinking from Jean-Luc prevents them from transporting Jack off the Elios, they are left in a dangerous stalemate. But the ship's commander, Captain Vadic, is unwilling to let her prey go, and tries to forcibly capture their vessel using her ship's tractor beam. Elsewhere, as Raffi keeps digging into the attack on the Federation's outpost on Metalis Prime, she is given an impossible choice by her ex-husband to either know the location of her son Gabe or the location of a low-life Ferengi dealer called Sneed. Meeting Sneed, attempting to find out the identity of who was really behind the attack on the Federation, she must convince him that she is not Starfleet. But with her cover blown, she is rescued by her handler, Worf. Back on the USS Titan, Captain Liam Shaw is still stewing about the perceived betrayal of Commander Annika Hansen. But against his better judgment, he takes her advice as he captains the Titan to rescue the legendary Federation heroes, breaking the tractor beam locked on the Elios and transporting Picard and Riker aboard, along with Jack to the brig and his mother, Dr. Beverly Crusher, to the sickbay. But he quickly regrets his decision as Captain Vadic actually throws the Elios at them as if it was nothing and realizes Vadic's ship, the Shrike, is significantly more armed than the Titan. While the Titan is relatively undamaged, Vadic gives them 1 hour to hand over the fugitive Jack Crusher. As the hour passes, Shaw learns that Jack is wanted on many charges, and despite giving Picard and Riker time to defend his right to stay aboard, he agrees to hand him over. But when Dr. Beverly Crusher recovers from her injuries to reunite with Jean-Luc, he quickly realizes that Jack is his son, and persuades Shaw not to hand him over to Vadic, who then plots a course into the nebula to evade Vadic's ship. Aboard the Shrike, Captain Vadic is delighted by the chase, knowing that she can use all her toys against the Starfleet vessel.
Oh yes. Always good ending an episode with the laughter of your villain as they're excited by the chase, isn't it?
The cackle almost.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Good fun. Although, not if you're aboard the Titan, I guess.
Absolutely.
The hunter becomes the hunted.
Exactly.
But let us get into our main points. Our Make It So number 1, our Omega Directive, our medium point, and then our Prime Directive, which is our big moment from the episode.
Yeah.
Yes. So, on to our first point.
Make It So number 1.
Chris, would you like to, dare I say it, kick us off on this one?
I can, Captain Picard.
Make it
I'll
so.
jump in with a Jack Crusher, and just basically this very nice opening with the Fenris Rangers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Annika Hansen's former charge. She used to work for the Fenris Rangers, right?
She certainly did.
Yes. I enjoyed this. I like that you do get the initial feeling. The whole thing is it's you get to see what I suppose could be kind of Jack's skills.
Yeah.
That like he's kind of he arrives there, he's a doctor, he knows all the things, he's essentially you see him almost explaining that, like, he fights for the side of good. He's almost like the Red Cross. He's a doctor without borders type doctor. Like, he doesn't care that these cartels and are kind of using kind of disease to stranglehold the population. He's going to save people. He has a Hippocratic oath type thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
When in fact he's a cheeky chappy.
Yes.
He uses his cheeky chappy abilities quite well. Yes. Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, you see him kind of start kind of talking about that suave, debonair, cheeky chappy type of kind of talk to anything and sell ice to the Eskimo. And essentially goes and manages to bribe the Fenris Rangers to theoretically get down and save these people on the planet.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is cool. We start to see more about Jack. We see kind of how he is. And the line, in terms of why I'm so intrigued by this, was that tell such and such we found them. Essentially, it's the Fenris Ranger, as they are carrying away the guns, talk and say to someone on comms, we found him. Yes,
exactly. Yes. And I'm not sure whether we know who that is by the end of the episode. And we, of course, have our big villain here in Captain Valak. But is he just calling out to Captain Valak or not? We hear the explanation from Jack that he's been on the run from that point onwards. That was 2 weeks before the arrival of Picard and Riker to his ship. And he's been on the run and been consistently challenged by greater and greater foes. People from Starfleet have been there. Other people have been following him, and it's getting more and more dangerous, but nothing has been as big as this challenge they have right now, exactly as you said in the synopsis, John, with the Shrike arriving. So, is this the final big bad, or is there another big bad out there, I guess? You know, how have they been building up, and how have they been following?
Well, is it like
Jack?
A Russian doll of big bads?
Yeah.
Except they're really small because they're the middle
It's
one.
like, I had this picture. Do you remember those aliens from MIB, Men in Black, where it's the one inside the people, just controlling people?
There you go.
That's essentially what we've got here.
Effectively.
It's a little grey alien. I just thought, look, this is a very small, tiny piece.
Exactly.
And I just thought it was very fun.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the cheeky chappy version of Jack. Like,
me too.
Does. It's that kind of... We don't often get a character like this in Star Trek. I think we've got one in Discovery kind of about 2 seasons ago, where it's that kind of, he plays by his own rules, but he's there to get the job done, but doing it for the greater good.
Exactly. And that's probably the big benefit here with Jack, or the big thing about Jack here. He's doing it, at least the way we're hearing the story anyway, is that he is on missions to save people. He will do anything. If it's a law that's in his way, he'll break that law. If it's somebody that needs bribing, he'll bribe them. He'll do anything he can, because above all else, it's saving the lives of the people that he can save with his skills. Of course, trained into him by his mother. So, yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, absolutely. Derek, what about yourself?
Mine's also on Jack, because I love the jibing throughout the episode from Riker to Jean-Luc. We mentioned it last week, the amazing British accent that Jack had indicated that he may have a connection to our own Jean-Luc Picard, the French man with an English accent. So we do hear that there is a connection here between the two of them, but before we get the final confirmation throughout the episode, Riker's going, there's something about him that I just can't place. Do you not see it, Jean-Luc? I really liked it, because it kind of gives Riker one over on his former captain, which I just think is always fun in their relationship when they can jibe back and forth. But yeah, that's my favorite lines throughout the episode is Riker just winding up Jean-Luc. But Jean-Luc doesn't seem to be taking the bait at all on these. But Riker's definitely enjoying himself. Yeah. Which is always good to see.
Definitely.
There you go. How about yourself, John? What's your top favourite line from the episode, favourite moment from the episode?
It's Vadic's description of her ship, the Shrike. I just really liked it because just describing this bird of prey, which is, thoughtful, considerate, will wait, is very efficient at getting its prey. based on a carrion bird on your home world, as she describes to Jean-Luc on Earth. And interestingly, the reason why I thought it was a really good name for a ship, and I loved the description, is the other name for this bird is the butcher bird, because it takes its prey and hangs it on thorns.
Ooh.
As well. And it's only about the size of kind of, even though it's a carrion bird, so it's clever, like, sort of magpie or raven. It's kind of like sparrow sized.
Oh, right.
It's quite small.
You'll never see it coming.
Exactly. Yes. So, I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly given the glee that Captain Vadic has as the Titan makes its way to the nebula, you can see that she's going to use that, that philosophy, I guess, of the bird that she's named her ship after. So I just thought it was really cool. It made it feel really menacing.
I like it.
If it didn't look menacing already.
Yeah.
with its pointy things.
And it's hard to place, in the past we would have had villains on the show that are a particular species, particular aliens that are out there, and just this call out to a bird of prey, and even the name of Captain Vadic makes me think of Romulans again. Romulans have been a central villain throughout the Picard history anyway. So of these 3 seasons. So I am wondering, where's Vadic from? That's what I'm wondering. We know she's not from Earth because she calls out from your home world, so she's obviously not from Earth. But I wonder where she's from.
As I say, the ship does look like that Shinzon ship. So
from Star Trek Direction.
Yeah, from Insurrection. So I'm wondering if it's similar. And he was Romulan.
Yeah, that's right.
Kind of.
Yeah, he was a clone of. He was a clone of Picard.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Could be something like that. Good stuff. I guess that's our favourite lines from the episode.
Yeah, I think so. Let us move on to our medium moment of the episode, the Omega Directive.
Implement the Omega Directive immediately.
Yes, our favourite scenes from the episode, I think.
Yes.
John, do you want to kick us off with your favourite scene?
Sure, why not? My medium moment here is 2 medium moments, really, and it's all around, well, Shaw is not that bad after all, or is he, I love the fact that he kind of, despite the fact that he's effectively sent 7 of 9 to her quarters and stripped her of command, that he, whether it's his own gratification or whether, he know it is self-preservation, but it ultimately leads to him going and sending the Titan to rescue Picard and Riker, because they can see from the Titan that another ship has entered into the nebula.
Yeah.
I love the fact that 7 of 9 convinces Shaw to go after them by saying, are you going to be the hero who saves heroes, or be remembered as the captain who let 2 legends die?
That is a great argument from 7.
Really good, because effectively she's ultimately been disciplined at this stage. He has no reason to listen to her. He's been fairly clear, and yet he relents with the persuasion of or the argument that 7 of 9 makes here, primarily for self-preservation, because he would be infamous for that.
Absolutely.
Across the Federation.
What, you mean you were just outside with a full starship and you decided not to save these 2 people?
Exactly.
It's against the rules. Now, did you not learn anything from the adventures of Riker and Picard?
Exactly. And so I kind of really like that. And the other one is him relenting again, I think a bit more out of just genuine goodwill to Picard, after Picard has learnt his relationship with Jack Crusher, and he goes, like, ultimately, to hell with it anyway, but after this it's on you, as he plots the route into the nebula for Titan after firing a few cheeky chappy blasters at the Shrike.
I don't think you're using that the way.
No, it's not the right way,
No,
but
it's
I
not,
just
is it?
thought, cheeky.
It sounded good.
Yeah, cheeky blaster shots. A few cheeky shots let off, hoping to maybe do some kind of damage, but nothing. So
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Is this unwilling passenger who happens to also be the commander of the ship? And I kind of like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like the way that he protests against it is totally understandable. He's effectively saying, I'm not going to sacrifice the 500 souls aboard this ship just for these two people. They've lived their life. They've had great adventures. One's retired.
Exactly.
One's no longer a captain or no longer has a seat. They've gone off and chosen to do this. If they die, they've got great stories to tell for generations about them. But of course, as you say, the scene of Seven telling the argument, if you do let them die, then the end of that story is everybody says, and that's the guy that did it. That's the guy that ended their adventures. So a great scene between the two of them.
Yeah.
So convincing him. Yeah.
And in relenting to Picard in the captain's seat, it's everything that hour that they've been given. It's everything in that moment that is where he has done a complete 180 from he's going to get sent over to hell with it, and I think that comes from a more genuine spot,
Absolutely.
Compared to maybe why he went into the nebula in the first place. He probably thought it was just a smaller ship or one that he could compete with.
Exactly.
But I do like the fact that he regrets that once he arrives. And certainly with all the comedic list of all the weapons as Vadik lowers her shield so that they can actually scan it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
Including an unknown weapon. I wonder.
Well, yes. Could that have been the one that was used on Madless Prime?
I wonder. Maybe.
Potentially.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Really?
My God.
Chris.
My God. My brain, I just went, oh yeah.
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be.
Nobody'd ever seen a weapon of that power before, and now there's a ship with an unknown, very powerful weapon on it.
Or it could be like when the A-Team used to do their final kind of bit of weaponage to get themselves out of the sticky situation. It could just be like a
12
explosive
stuff
ice
together.
cream van.
I
Or
was going to
something.
say, it's like 12 quantum torpedoes or photon torpedoes strapped together with a bit of duct tape, kind of surprise.
In a Romulan ice cream van, if they have ice cream vans. So it doesn't look threatening.
I like your first guess more than your second guess, John. I do like your favorite moment, though. That's a good scene from the episode. How about you, Chris? What's your favorite scene from the episode? Your Omega Directive.
So mine is very much we forget people are old in this show. It's the transporter issue where essentially we have Picard running around this room in the Elios, the ship, basically placing these little things, basically, and he, give Jack going, what are you doing? Oh, I'm trying to basically disrupt them from doing that thing. Yes, then I'm trying to disrupt them from transporting us out. And you're like, oh yeah. And then basically the Titan tries to get them and it's not working. And they're like, oh god, sorry. Remember that thing we did 60 seconds ago? Hold on, let me turn that off. And you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. In the moment you forget these things, but I literally did, I haven't done this in a while. I did the guy screaming at the TV screen moment where I was watching this and I was like, the disruptor for the transporters.
I know, exactly.
I was like, what the? Come on.
As well, I think because of that, when he wasn't taking Riker's jibing, I was just like, is it just because he can't see it? Or is it he doesn't recognize, I don't know. There was something about it that felt like he should have been, dare I say, engaged with Riker on that point, given what he's insinuating to him. But he didn't, and I was kind of like, oh, okay.
I'll leave my answer to that for my my prime directive, my major moment.
Okay.
So I want to talk about that a little bit at the end of our discussion.
But But he's not bald, is he? So I guess.
let's shave him first. Anyway.
Oh, I know who you are now.
Yeah, so look, this for me was just a funny moment, but it just also was quite frustrating. And I'm like, okay, I think this was done to kind of ratchet up the tension slightly, that the transporter's not working. Oh god, yes, that thing.
Right.
Versus, he's old, he forgets things.
Yeah.
And it's just in the moment they forgot.
I am going to give Picard a pass here because they didn't expect the Titan to come in. They had no idea the Titan was going to come in. The Titan started trying to beam them off, and that's when they got in contact with them. And then Picard did an absolutely amazing move by destroying all of the dampeners that were around the ship. He took out his phaser and took out each one without missing once. That's awesome move. So I'm going to give him a total pass on this. It was a funny moment, but he did an amazing move, and I can understand more so he didn't expect the Titan to come in and beam them off.
Derek, of course, you're right again.
There you go. Once every 1 year.
I much prefer the fun.
Spoiling our fun.
But look, it did get me that kind of moment. I got fully engaged in the scene because I was like, come on, the things.
Exactly. Come on, you can do it. Yes.
Well, no, more like, come on, those things are stopping them. Please, there you go, you've done it, grand.
Exactly.
And you get a very cool, basically, Patrick Stewart spinning in the spot, shooting his pew-pew. So it was fun. But anyway, that's my favourite scene.
Excellent.
Derek, what about you? What's your Omega directive?
Well, speaking of spoiling your fun, my favourite moment from the episode, my favourite scene from the episode, is Raffi's choice. Raffi has a very different story going on in this episode. She's now got that commitment that we've seen Raffi have before. She's on a proper mission that she's given to herself in this episode. She's fighting back against the handler that won't let her, won't meet up with her, that won't give her direction, telling her to stand down. She's seen people killed on Metalis Prime at the end of the last episode, and now she wants to go and resolve this mission. And it gets a great moment here with Raffi Musiker, where she seeks out her ex-husband Jay to get contact with the Ferengi that supplied the Romulan, who potentially, at least the press are saying, that he's the cause of the attack that she had. So she effectively has to go to someone that doesn't trust her, doesn't particularly like her committing her life to her missions, and tell him one more time, if you give me help, I might be able to resolve this mission. So I think it's a really good scene. I think, once again, Michelle Hurd playing a great role here.
Definitely.
But the choice itself that Jay gives her is absolutely unconscionable.
It's outrageous.
It's absolutely
outrageous. I would have
outrageous.
slapped him.
Yeah. He's simply saying to her, you either choose the ability to see your son again, who has had to go through these points with you over your entire life, had to have you run away and say you're on a mission with Jean-Luc, or you're on another personal mission. You can either see your son, or you can get this information, and that leads you to the Ferengi that will take you on and continue your mission. And we see later that Raffi's choice is to go on her mission. That is the priority for her. Once again, that is, she will put her priority mission above everything else.
Well, it's an impossible choice.
It is.
And it's, as I say, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
What a douchebag. I mean, I think you don't, as such, her and her son's relationship is complicated. And you say, but you don't make her have a choice between effectively what is her job and then her private life.
Yeah.
And it, whether it's about, well, I'll check with Gabe to see if he wants to see you. It's his choice ultimately, not her ex-husband's.
But Jay's effectively saying, I will only check with your son if he wants to see it, if you choose not to go
He's
after the Ferengi.
Douchebag.
Yeah.
Slap required.
Great scene, though.
Yeah, really good scene.
Great scene. I feel they're going to lean hard into the addict aspect of Raffi again this season.
Which I think is good, actually. I like that.
She's a flawed character. And the addict version of her character is one that we don't see much of within Star Trek.
Yeah.
That flawed, seedy underbelly kind of, it's come up in a couple of episodes, but outside of Picard.
I think there's more to it, and I think you've almost hit it. I think there absolutely going to be dealing with her addicted personality.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to go anywhere near addiction and drugs and alcohol again this season. If they do, that feels like they're almost turning her back into a two-dimensional character. I feel like in Star Trek, we've always had these characters who are really driven. They're more career orientated than everybody else because they don't have to deal with money. They don't get paid for their jobs. They do what they love and they work harder than anybody else works. And here with Raffi, you have somebody that works harder than everybody else works because she's addicted to that role and addicted to that job. So, she fell on hard times. Her family all left her and she turned to drugs because she ended off leaving Starfleet and didn't have that drive. So I think they will lean into that, how driven she is to get the job done. And that's a negative in her character. Whereas a lot of other characters that we've seen across all the Star Trek, if they're really driven to get the job done, that's always a positive. So I think they will deal with that with Raffi.
I think they will, like you say, play on that addiction of her drive, either being an addict for work, having an addictive personality.
Yeah.
I think they may put in that she becomes so pressured that she feels the need, or she struggles with not going back on it because she needs it. Just something, just because they're leaning, because they give her this Sophie's choice.
Right.
Her mission or her son, her family or her, like, they're throwing, like, that's a potentially Sophie's choice for, like, episode 5. And they're giving it a right now, so it only tells me that we're going to get at least 1 or 2 bigger choices for her as a major character, being one of the main characters of that has come all the way from season 1. They'll put that like later on the season.
Personally, I hope not. I hope by the end of the season we have Raffi back to as strong a number one, a first commander that she was.
I think that would be really good.
Pre-season 1.
I think that would be really good. But at the same time, I think what I really like about Raffi's character is that actually her career progression in Starfleet has not been like you see literally with every other commander. It's almost like it's just so smooth sailing. I mean, Starfleet, in fairness, must have the best HR and career path. And I guess it's the military. It is kind of militaristic in terms of
scientific and exploration.
No, exactly, but it's
with a military wing.
It's structured in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas I've always enjoyed Raffi because we saw her as being, right-hand person to Picard.
Yep.
Then at the start of season 2, again, she's doing more. She's involved. It feels like they've put her out of the way a bit here.
Yeah.
She's still with the espionage wing of Starfleet. So I kind of really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And her journey's been so good since season 1, exactly as you say, John, that hopefully we keep building on that throughout the rest of the season. And now that she's met up with another major character, which I'm sure we'll get to in our major points from the episode, hopefully it'll be a really exciting story as well.
Fingers crossed. And hopefully we get to see Christoph back as a hologram in the back end as on the ship one day. Maybe.
You never know.
Just one. Just for one quick.
You never know. It is nice that she has La Serena as her ship, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Kind of cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just give us options for even an Elnor hologram in the background.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe. That would be cool, actually.
Yep.
Get him back somehow.
Just for a quick scene and then, he's done.
Definitely. Right, I think with that we can move on to our Prime Directive, our big moment for the episode.
We must face the ramifications of the Prime Directive.
I think you should take the first Prime Directive, John, I think. What was your major moment from the episode?
Yeah, mine's the, I guess it's the attack on Titan, on the USS Titan. But 2 elements to this. First of all, I thought it was absolutely horrendously cool how the Titan broke the tractor beam.
It was pretty cool.
I thought that was really good, to be honest.
I wasn't expecting it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was kind of thinking in fact, the whole sort of engagement between the Shrike and the Titan I thought was going to be a bit more standard. So I certainly wasn't expecting it to come in and use the disc part of the ship to just break that tractor beam. And I was wondering whether it would, I guess it's too big, but would get caught up in it
Right.
suddenly.
But
But
one
no,
of the panels rips off the top
yeah,
of it.
it's too big.
Uh-huh.
But then the fact that you have this move by Captain Vadik, where she engages the tractor beam again on the Helios to effectively slingshot it
So cool.
through space
Yeah.
to right at the Titan. I thought it was just like awesome. I thought it was just something different.
Absolutely.
I really, really enjoyed it.
Love Captain Shaw's reaction to that as well. He's just like, they just throw the ship at
Yeah,
us.
exactly. But that's it. It was just like unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like how it all played out. I mean, I think some of its plating, the ship plating, got taken off. But luckily it wasn't a full frontal sort of collision, by that. So,
Yeah.
and I think it also then just played into that moment I mentioned before with Captain Vadik effectively leaving herself defenseless by lowering her shields for the Titan to then scan all the different types of weaponry in terms of photon torpedoes and so on, that they have, just to understand, that kind of gameplay between the two captains, just so that he realizes they are a military ship. Theirs is an explorative ship.
Yes. With weapons. But yes.
With weapons,
Yeah.
but not decked out in the same way as, this is a gunboat to a battleship, in a
Yes,
sense.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do even hear from Picard going, there has to be a way to negotiate. And then they realize, she's willing to do anything, to get Jack. So, but yeah, love these kind of tense standoff scenes, throughout the episode. I thought that was really good because it does feel like, Vadik is playing with her food effectively. She knows she is
definitely
way overpowered here. She can win. So, I really like those scenes as well. And Shaw just going, I don't know what I've got myself into.
But that's it. I mean, I have to say, I really enjoy Captain Shaw here, played by Todd Stashwick. I just think he's great. I just love the vibe that he brings to the captain of a Federation ship, because it is just kind of it feels different. I like it's irreverent to the past of Star Trek through what we saw in episode 1, and yet here we see a little bit more of a softening of that as well. And I think in this moment, just seeing the utter surprise, and he seems very pragmatic. It's like, okay, get him from the brig, we're going to send him over.
Yeah.
He's a fugitive. And he says that quite early on, but in that hour, Picard and Riker persuade him that they should have some time to find out a bit more about actually what's the reason,
Exactly.
So, it's the attack on the Titan.
Yeah. Excellent.
Before it sort of licks its wounds and runs off
runs
into
away.
the nebula.
Exactly. I love it.
But, Chris, going to another part of the galaxy, what's your big moment?
I'm going to stay ahead of the game. I'm going to stay, if you will, with a game of chess, 4-dimensional chess. Which includes a Ferengi, a Raffi, and a Worf. Or it should be 3D, I should say. This was fun. So I enjoyed this piece where Raffi is going to meet the Ferengi Sneed, and again, Ferengis they're a fun character, kind of like if they always were.
Yeah.
Ever since kind of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Or kind of, well, actually from Next Generation.
Yeah.
But from Deep Space Nine, you kind of get the two Ferengi from there.
Yeah. We got to know Quark very well.
Quark, that was
throughout the show. Yeah, definitely.
But just seeing them are always interesting. And then getting kind of Raffi's attempted, I'm going to call it, kind of game of cat and mouse, kind of being covert, having to take the drugs, which goes really badly, and then saved by her handler. I will admit, I didn't think the handler would be Worf.
Oh, really?
I knew Worf was going to be in this show. They kind of had character art had leaked that already, and trailers had leaked that. I didn't think Worf would be. I thought her actual handler would be someone else, and as part of her investigation would meet essentially Worf.
Right. Okay.
So I was quite happy with this. Also seeing Worf go full Klingon on everyone in that room, pretty fun.
Absolutely. I'm really delighted about that because all the rumours before the show was coming out was that Worf is a pacifist. He may well be in the rest of the season, but this didn't seem like the moves of a pacifist when he arrived.
No.
We had guests on our podcast last week on episode 1 that it could have been Worf that was communicating with Raffi. So I wasn't surprised that it was him, but I was surprised at his entrance, definitely. What a way to enter a series.
Yeah. We assumed it was. It was a bit of an easy setup. I thought they may hold him off for slightly something different. I know it probably is him. It's going to be him. I just didn't think they'd go with it.
Right.
But hey, it just proves once again the three of us are capable at some point to go into a writer's room and help out.
Or capable of sometimes guessing that the writers may be right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey.
We can agree with their choices in the script. How about that?
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. But yeah, John, what did you think?
Yeah, no, I really love this scene between Sneed and Raffi. I just thought it was so good. I mean, even just the drug taking being shown on Star Trek.
In the eye.
Yeah, and with the eye. I love Sneed, because you always remember this from Quark, the wily businessman. He's a wily dealer, effectively. Not trusting, suspecting that she's Starfleet. And I mean, her cover story is a good one. I was like, how is she going to get past this now? But I really liked her cover story. And even though he did have the head of this low-level Romulan terrorist, Lurak Toluco, I was still there thinking, well, she still could have worked for him. It's just she didn't know
you took his head.
Yeah, exactly. She was in the back office.
Yeah.
Doing all the arrangements. Or something like
she
that.
Was just off-world, yeah.
So I did think maybe it jumped to the conclusion, but I liked it anyway, and I love the entrance of Worf, and I did like Sneed's little sort of his line when he pulls out Toluco's head, which is, got to tie up loose ends to protect the big fish. So, the bigger fish being out there, whether it is Captain Vadic at this moment.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I just thought he was referring to himself as the big fish. I've got to tie off loose ends to protect me. I took him out, basically. I think it's really interesting that Sneed's taken the head of Toluca, the person that's been accused of this attack, and he's still got it on ice here, even though effectively, I guess from the news, the Federation are looking for this guy. They've pinned the whole attack on him. Yeah. It's only because of, but we now know Worf. It's only because Worf told Raffi that Sneed's the one that informed on Toluca, saying he was the one responsible. That's why Raffi's there. But they're not looking for anybody else connected with this attack. The reporters at least have said that this attack was done by Toluca. Toluca's now dead. His head is in the ice bucket of the Ferengi's, the Ferengi bar, of Sneed's bar.
I think it's a bit earlier on, isn't it? This is why Raffi is suspicious anyway, even before she goes to her handler, is, and why she wants to keep digging is because you've got a low-level Romulan terrorist in Lurok with a low-life Ferengi in Sneed as the informant. Attack, somehow an attack on a mid-level Federation recruitment facility. Using this stolen weapon from Daystrom Laboratories or Institute. So it all seems way too low level for the type of weapon that they've taken.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of like that from Raffi as well, and sort of propelling her to this moment, you know.
Adds something extra to Dr. Crusher's warning of don't trust anyone as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Potentially. Because obviously Federation have got the wrong information and they're lying about it, right? So, why is that? That's interesting.
But also, kind of bringing this back all the way to the top, the head of the point. Worf. So Raffi's down. Worf comes in, beheading and destroying every aspect of the Ferengi and his gang.
Yeah.
So a lot of that whole backstory is kind of, well, not backstory. A lot of that whole point and all the information they could have got, it's gone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. So Worf is her handler. So obviously he's Federation kind of intelligence. Cool. Where do they go from here? And I'm looking forward to this because this is that kind of like almost pseudo spy aspect of the storyline that's going to be kind of hopefully threaded through.
Is it Section 31? Will we get an appearance from Julian Bashir from Deep Space Nine in here somewhere? Is that who Worf's been working with? That'd be awesome. Absolutely love to see Bashir back after his secretive work off with Section 31. But yeah, that'd be really exciting. I just wonder if Worf was like, look, if you walk in there, you're going to get killed. You walked in there, right, I'll help you out, I'll save you. I have another thread of information that I've been following up. I just didn't want you to follow up on it. Yeah. I have something that we can work on here. So I hope that's where it's going. I hope they haven't just dead-ended that attack on the recruitment center.
No, but they definitely dead-ended the Ferengi.
They certainly did. They certainly did.
But there you go. That's my major plot moment. And I'm looking forward to see where it goes. Derek, what about yourself? To round it out.
I will, yes, because we kind of danced around it really, again, because it is a major moment in the episode. My son. He's my son. Picard finally accepts that Jack is his son, after all of the ribbing from Riker. And the reason he does is because of a moment of contact with Dr. Beverly Crusher. The look that she gives him confirms that the suspicions are right. I love the scene. I think it's absolutely wonderfully played. No lines at all from Beverly Crusher when she comes on board, but the minute Picard's in her presence, he knows it to be true. When it happened, I have no idea. I'm intrigued how they'll explain it. There's an interesting absence of Dr. Beverly Crusher in the show. If you're all fans of Next Generation, Beverly Crusher didn't appear in seasons 2 and season 3 of the Next Generation, right? So could it have been a moment between the two of them? She went off, gave birth to Jack, and now Jack is around 30 now? Or could it have been and never mentioned it to Jean-Luc?
Which would be weird.
Which would be odd, I guess. It would be odd, but maybe that's something that happened. Or is it post the end of The Next Generation 20 years ago when Beverly Crusher ran away and didn't get in contact with anybody from that point onwards? Those are the 2 points I'm suspecting, one or the other.
I think they're trying to go that Jack's the 20-ish. I think they're trying to, even though the actor is not 20-ish.
He's 35, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're going for that whole thing because they've kind of hammered home that she disappeared for 20 years and didn't speak to anyone and et cetera, et cetera.
Could it have been that her 10-year-old son got into trouble and she went off to help him out, you know?
Yeah.
Could no longer hide him. Something like that.
Could be many, many things.
Yeah.
The only reason I think potentially that leaning towards the 20 is her other son. Who disappeared. Like, do you think he knows something or might have said something if it was pre the end of The Next Generation? Like if it was like season 2, season 3, you'd think Wesley would go, "Hey mom, my brother who we don't talk about, oops." Just because he was an annoying character sometimes. Like, I'm joking, people. Before anyone writes in, I love Wesley Crusher and I love Will Wheaton.
Shut up, Wesley. Yes. I mean, shut up, Chris. But then again, maybe she just didn't want Jack to be treated like Wesley Crusher. You know, he was an ensign on board a spaceship for most of his life, and she had to travel the galaxy with him because his father was dead, right? So maybe she didn't want the offspring of Jean-Luc Picard to be treated in a similar way and hit him out. We will only know this as the story for the season goes on, but it is really intriguing. You know, the last season all dealt with Picard having no legacy, having no loving relationship because of what happened to his mother in the past. So, and because of his history. So this season seems to be dealing with potentially his offspring. So, it's a really intriguing setup for the season.
Wait till his son realizes his father's a robot or an android.
That was called out in this episode, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. They are not hiding it, at least.
I'm glad.
I'm really glad. Like he's only alive because he is a very high level android.
Yeah.
That you're not able to tell the difference at all.
Exactly.
Between him and an android. He's aging at the same rate, roughly, as he would have aged anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So they don't have to do anything, but it is called out here. His synthetic skin, I think, is the words they use. So, yeah.
And as well, it doesn't prevent Picard from doing some damn fine eye acting. Because I have to say, I thought that was... I really enjoyed that scene. It's just that eye contact and the knowing look, I guess, from Beverly to Picard.
Yeah.
And his
you
reaction.
Already know this, yeah.
You know, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
I think in terms of where this may have happened, I think it's towards the end of his time on Enterprise and that 20-year gap. I would kind of be thinking as well, a bit like Chris. But I'm open to her keeping a secret son.
There you go.
You know, for sure.
Yeah, let's see. I guess we'll find out as the season goes on, as I mentioned. Anything else? Any other notes, points, or anything you want to talk about on this episode?
Nothing for myself.
I've just one line from Captain Shaw as he realizes that there are 4 people to bring on board the Titan after he's interrupted the tractor beam, where he goes, well, we might as well, as we're a hotel now. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like that as well.
So let's see what we all thought overall. Chris, what did you think of Star Trek Picard Episode 2, Disengage?
I'm quite positive on it. Again, I'm really enjoying the overall storyline, where it's taking us, how characters are getting introduced. The thing that we guessed and the things that we have guessed are coming to fruition, but in a way that I was like, yeah, I'm down to continue where these road is going. So overall, I'm pretty positive on it.
Excellent.
Yeah. So definitely something to watch, and looking forward to episode 3.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it as well. I love that they introduced Beverly in the first episode, Worf this episode, and exciting action sequences. That's quite cool, isn't it? And we have kind of the overarching, because Riker obviously was in last season with Picard, so we don't have to reintroduce him. So I wonder will we get an action sequence with each member of the former Next Generation cast coming in.
That'd be cool.
Each episode. Do you think we'll get Miles O'Brien? I know Miles did move off to Deep Space Nine, but he was the engineer on Next Generation for like 5 or 6 seasons. Do you think he'll appear at some point? Colin Meaney arriving aboard the USS Titan at some point. Since everybody else is coming back from Next Generation, would it really be the same if we didn't get Miles O'Brien coming back?
That's true. I hadn't thought about Miles O'Brien, and it would be great to have him.
Yeah, he's probably better known from DS9, I suppose. So, yeah.
But the fact that you called out potentially getting Bashir and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
If you could throw in, just towards the end of the season, just throw in a few DS9 characters. Just throw in
Tasha.
But like, give us a bit of Tasha from like the Next Generation.
Yeah.
Just like as a ghost, a Force ghost.
Externally, I will say it's unlikely we'll get Tasha Yar back, because she specifically called out she wasn't even invited to the premiere of this show. So I'm not very happy about it, because she normally is invited to those types of events. So not very happy that she wasn't invited. So I don't think we're going to see Tasha Yar coming back, unfortunately.
Okay, well then not that one, but all the others. It's fine. Just give us all. It's all a fair view of them.
Good stuff. Yes, but overall, really enjoyed this episode. Really enjoyed this season so far, and I think they're delivering on so far 2 episodes in at least. They're delivering on the central premise of getting all the characters we love back together.
Yeah.
How about yourself, John?
I don't think I've got too much more to say from what you've said. I would give this 4. Ooh, chase me, out of 5. That's what the Titan says when it's running into the nebula.
I like it.
Ooh,
I
chase me, Shrike.
or fire all your weapons at me, Shrike.
Ooh. Yes, well, exactly. So I'm really enjoying this. I think I'm absolutely loving seeing Worf come back, Beverly. Can't wait for Georgie to come back in. You've got Riker and so on. Like you were saying, I think as well at the moment, what I really like, because even 7 of 9, like what she says to Shaw about, you're the hero who saves heroes, or you kill off legends. But I like the fact that you have the counterpoint of Shaw being disrespectful, or or not standing on ceremony with them. I just think that's really good. And it's the same with Jack Crusher. Those counterpoints of not standing on the ceremony of their legendriness is really, really good, I think. Yeah. And that's what's making it, because it could have been just some kind of deep space loving.
Absolutely.
Maybe on Deep Space Nine, which I'm glad, because they've not gone that way, despite all the nostalgia in the trailers. So I'd give this 4. Ooh, chase me, said the Titan to the Shrike.
I love it.
Out of 5.
I love it.
Is that really a score? But yes, it is.
But I have one ask for episode 3. Episode 1 ended on the cliffhanger of Jack saying, "I'm Beverly Crusher's son." Episode 2 ended on the cliffhanger of Picard going, "Oh, he's my son too." Hopefully episode 3 doesn't end on the cliffhanger of, "And I'm Wesley Crusher's brother." Yeah, we get it. Okay. You're part of the Crusher family. Okay. Hopefully there will not be that type of cliffhanger in episode 3.
Or it'd be the Russian dolls of Beverly's sons. And this is Riker's son.
Oh my God. That would be brilliant. And here's your son, and here's another son. Or just clones. There's clones, loads and loads of clones. It would be amazing.
Well, with that reveal, I think we need to go and celebrate the birth of Jack Crusher. Might be 20 or 30 years late. But let's go on to 10 forward and
wet
have a
his
drink.
head.
Yes,
belatedly. Yes, fellow Trekkies and quizzers, welcome to 10 forward and the pub quiz for episode 2. Here with question 2 is me. What is the name of the drug that Sneed makes Raffi take to prove that she is not Starfleet?
Ooh, that's a good one. I didn't even write that down in my notes.
Yeah, space coke.
In your eyes, Chris?
Well, when you said the need for speed, I was thinking, oh, okay, earlier on.
I like it.
Yes.
Do you want to get the question one more time, John?
Certainly. Question 2. What is the name of the drug that Sneed makes Raffi take to prove that she is not Starfleet?
Good stuff. Question 1 and 2 are both available over on our website at tvpodcastindustry.com. Go check it out. It's an excuse to go over and have a look at the nice new website. Just click on the quizzes button right at the top and you'll get all the questions for the Last of Us pub quiz and the Picard podcast 10 forward pub quiz as well.
And of course, if you want to enter, you can send in your answers to feedback@tvpodcastingindustries.com at the end of the series. Or you can send them in after each and every episode as you wish, where you will be put into the grand 10 forward pub quiz tombola draw for some Star Trek Picard prizes.
Absolutely. Get entering.
Make it so.
Good stuff. So should we jump into some feedback for episode 1 and episode 2?
Excellent. Yes, let's head on over for some feedback. Our first piece of feedback comes in on Facebook on episode 1 from Victor Von Doom, who says, "Nice to see the final season off to an exciting start. Looking forward to Beverly's 20-year backstory. Is Raffi actually Starfleet intelligence or a civilian operative? The Titan's captain is a real jerk. I have a feeling 7 will wind up running circles around him." Hopefully, Victor, you've seen that Shaw has a nice side to him as well this episode. It must be really difficult if you've gotten your way all the way up to rank of captain and then some legendary captain walks aboard or some legendary admiral walks on board and goes, "Give me control of your ship." It must be really difficult to keep control of your little universe that you're supposed to be in control of. So I kind of see why he'd push back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's kind of getting the elbows out.
Exactly.
To be honest. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Victor.
Yes, thank you, Victor. The next piece of feedback comes from Heather Wallace, who had this to say. Wow, 30 seconds in, and it's already the best Beverly Crusher story in the entire run of Next Gen. Certainly better than the one where she was hooking up with a space ghost that has also hooked up with her nana.
I'd love to see where that kid is.
That was a terrible episode.
That's the other Russian doll.
Exactly.
Heather went on to say the name of Beverly's ship is the Ilios. It's another name for Troy, and she's been gone for 20 years. The same amount of time Odysseus was gone from Ithaca when he went to fight the Trojan War. Not sure if that's foreshadowing something to do with her son. Ooh, look at you, Heather. I bet you're very happy with what you're guessing right now.
Yeah, I kind of see where you're going with it. Yes, again, we will see where it's going in the future, but that's a really interesting theory that you've got there, Heather.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff, Heather. Thank you for your theories. Keep them coming in. We also got some feedback from Dr. Bob Phillips, who says, this feels so much better than season 2. Held my attention, has me questioning what is really going on, and having tiny cracks in my cold stone heart for the lovely elven lady being dumped for a boys' weekend once again. Jean-Luc Picard, when will you grow up and just get someone else to do the rescuing? New Titan captain marked as a baden by A, doing spreadsheets over the honor guard, and B, making Seven use the name he prefers, and C, deleting the bebop. Well, very good, Dr. Bob Phillips. I think A, I would probably be doing spreadsheets over the honor guard, maybe. B, no, I wouldn't do that. C, I would delete the bebops as well, to be honest. So it's 2 out of 3. It might be why I'm a little closet fan of Captain Shaw.
Good stuff. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Glad you enjoyed the episodes as well. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of the season too. Joe Herbert says, I didn't love it. Really seems like they could have come up with a better start to the season than a feeble plan to commandeer a Starfleet ship and then steal a shuttle. How are they going to get back afterwards? Are there no other ships around? Was Rios the only private ship for hire? Even if they aren't smart enough to figure something out, I'm sure Laris could have gotten them a ship. Once they went with that, the other weaknesses bothered me more than they might have, and it makes me worried about the writing of the rest of the season. Interesting, Joe.
That is interesting, Joe. I have to say, and whether it's just, again, the nostalgia element or whatever, but I do know where you're coming from with this. I didn't as such say anything on last week's podcast. I just kind of rolled with it. And it didn't affect my enjoyment of the episode, but I did think this always happens. You know, this is the mode of operation for sneakily getting to somewhere where they need to go.
Yeah.
You know, so I think I can definitely see where you're coming from, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'm hoping this one has helped, at least episode 2 has helped you kind of allay some fears about the writing. Some of it's written on the wall. Like, honestly, some of it it's so much signposted, we all guessed it. I think it's the very much the destination of each of those plot points. Even if you know it is how they get there. It's the journey, if you will. The journey to boldly go where a lot of other shows have gone before, but at least in a narrative perspective. But who knows? It could be different. It could be unique.
It's an interesting point, though, that you make, Joe. If they'd reached out to somebody else to get a ship that isn't a Starfleet ship like they did with Rios in season 1, wouldn't that be repeating what they did in season 1?
Exactly.
So actually them going and commandeering a USS Starship, that's different, right? That is a different story for Picard because they haven't done that before. But they, of course, did that in the movies before, and they have done it in some of the Star Trek shows before.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea just because the conceit, it gives them a way to make sure that Seven's involved in the show. Yeah, if you go with the narrative, you get the awesome view of the Titan, you know, obviously Captain Riker's former command, all that stuff is what plays into it. But yeah, it absolutely is something that has been done before. But I think this whole series is based on nostalgia and based on them doing things that they have done before, because, hey, we all want to see one final adventure with this cast, right?
Yeah. And they're going to get on the new Enterprise, whatever the class of ship it is now, or whatever, they will get the USS Enterprise one time.
100%. We've already seen it named. It's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Next up, Jamie Lawton had this to say: "We finally see the USS Titan, but not the one from the novels and Lower Decks, which was one commanded by Riker and a lunar class ship. Also, like Picard's flat cap he wears to go to the bar, it made me think of that Yorkshire tea advert that Patrick Stewart is in here in the UK. And we're having a pint at the Dog and Trumpet after work. Apparently there's a tab behind the bar."
Love that ad.
Is his line.
Yeah, absolutely love that ad. It's a really good fun ad. Because it's the most epic send off for somebody at the end of their working week, having Picard announce, "Let's go to the pub." Fantastic. Good stuff. In regards to whether the USS Titan is the same ship, it is the same ship commanded by Riker. Okay. We have seen it before. It's in novels. We've seen it in Lower Decks when Will Riker appeared in Lower Decks. They start out the season with the fact that it's being refitted, okay? The way that works in this universe, in the Star Trek universe, is a refit can really be anything from changing the class of the ship to changing the interior decoration, yeah? I think a lot of people seem to think it's just the interior decoration that changes, but it has happened before. Classes of ships have changed, and it's still the same ship. Do you remember the big statement from Vision on WandaVision, where he talks about, is it still the same ship if you change all the parts of it over many years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's basically what the USS Titan is. It's still the same ship, but not necessarily all the same parts in the same order. That's basically what they're saying, at least. I think we can go with it. That's what they've said. They're specifically calling out that Riker had his jazz removed from the internal data banks by Shaw, the new captain. So this was Riker's ship that is being featured here.
But is it, though?
What is it? That is the question, I guess.
Exactly.
That's the question from Vision. I believe it is.
And how many times have we seen the Enterprise destroyed?
Mm-hmm.
Only to be remade anew, but it was still Picard's.
But they usually add a letter to those, Chris, in universe. They usually add a letter to those. So you have an Enterprise A, B, C, and all the way through the alphabet. We haven't gotten to Enterprise Z yet. So there are still enough letters in the alphabet, as they said before.
It would be Enterprisey. See, get it?
It would be
Enterprisey.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for the feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. William Walton says, "I discovered a piece of interesting trivia. The woman depicted in the Red Lady statue was the captain of the Enterprise C."
Yes.
Good stuff. Yes. Good spot there, William. Yeah, that was Rachel Garrett.
Nice.
Yeah. So good spot, William, for... I didn't actually know that myself. So, yeah, good spot. Finally, we have some feedback on episode 2 from Matt Murdoch, who says, "It was a little too obvious to call the end of episode 2 of Picard any kind of stunning reveal, but hats off to Gates and Sir Patrick for making the moment between without even saying a word. One of the most epic Star Trek moments ever. And wow, Amanda Plummer was amazing." Yeah, I completely agree with you here, Matt. I probably even undersold it. I do think that moment between Gates McFadden and Sir Patrick Stewart was just quite momentous. It just, as I say, the unknowing look, but it just really delivered perfectly by two really good actors here. So
my moment of the episode.
Yeah, really good. Yep. And I think Amanda Plummer as well. I mean, I actually didn't recognize her from being from Pulp Fiction to begin with, but I absolutely loved just her cadence and delivery of this captain, because it was almost like as I say, it was like why on for the synopsis at the end I said, she can finally use her toys aboard the Shrike. She's almost like a giddy child in a sense. Because she of the supreme confidence in knowing to some degree she's got the upper hand, at least in terms of the ship. And I love that, supremely confident, just playing it almost gizzily. And I really thought it was great.
Absolutely. She's a great addition to the show as a villain for this couple of episodes. So looking forward to seeing more of it next week. Great stuff. Thanks so much for that, Matt. And here's a bit more feedback from Matt. And we have a voicemail in all about his thoughts on one of the central musical themes from Picard season 3, episode 1.
Hello, TV podcast industry's crew. Matt here again. I've got some musical comments regarding Picard. Season 3, episode 1. I actually just saw this episode today, the 21st of February. I hadn't gotten around to it yet. And to be honest, I haven't even listened to your guys' breakdown of it yet. But I plan on doing that just as soon as I get done with this. I just wanted to comment. Obviously, Mr. Rousseau is not composing the main series this time around. He did provide the title card music. It's nice. Don't really want to talk about it. I want to talk about something that Stephen Barton, the new composer, did a couple of times in this episode. He introduced a theme that I think is a theme for maybe Picard and Riker, but it was used in two places where it's kind of hard to tell, because one of them was where Titan was departing the starbase, and the other one was when Picard and Riker were departing the Titan. And to be honest, it uses a lot of musical tropes that many composers have used throughout the years, but it still functions to serve the purpose that it does. And I want to start with just what the theme sounds like. It basically goes through a major chord to its minor 5. Pretty simplistic, but effective in the way that the shape of the melody starts to dip down, then reaches way back up, then comes back to a center. It's an indication of adventure. And it can be interpreted as triumphant as well because of that shape. And that's why it feels triumphant and a little wondrous when Titan is launching from the starbase, and why it feels a little triumphant as Riker and Picard get away. But the main thing I want to talk about is in the first sequence and the way that it is dressed up, because that's where a lot of the musical tropes come in. First of all, the melody, there's a little figure right at the beginning of it that incorporates notes that typically aren't part of the scale. Well, one of them is, the other one is not. It's the first note of that little melody figure that incorporates the sharp 4. That creates what we call the Lydian mode. Anyway, I'm talking about this. And the note that doesn't fit the chord is this. And the use of that note, because it is an exact symmetry to where the root is. It's the exact number of spaces between where the root of the key is on either side. 6 half steps. We don't like symmetry in our harmony for whatever reason, but there are ways that we can dress it up, as Barton did here, that makes it seem not unpleasant, just kind of weird. Now, if I take that same note and I place it in the E diminished chord, then it sounds ominous, like this. But only one of those other notes that are in that chord actually fit the major scale. However, if I take the Lydian mode, meaning that I'm actually taking a B scale, but I'm using E as the center, the 4th step, that's what Lydian is based on, then it almost kind of adds a wondrous feel to it. Notice if I play the E major chord with that same note, it still doesn't feel quite right, but it doesn't feel unpleasant. It just feels kind of, ooh. So what is Barton trying to do here? He's trying to make us feel the wonder of it. Is it the wonder for Will and Riker? If this is a Will and Riker theme, maybe. Is it the wonder for us to see this great new ship that we've never seen before go out into space? Probably. Because that's what a Lydian scale does. It feels weird, but what it does is it almost feels like it expands the major chord to include something bigger. And that's what creates this feeling of wonder and awe. And it's re-emphasized in the melody by horn harmonies that are played against it as well. You'll hear it not just in the melody figure, but you'll also hear it in the harmony as the melody is stated the second time. Again, this is nothing new. Composers have been using Lydian mode for a long time. But isn't it interesting how, no matter how time passes, our human ears still perceive the way harmonies work together in the same way, and we still interpret them pretty much in the same way. And there's two other real quick things that I want to talk about here. During the statement of that melody, there's also some typical, what I call musical tropes. One of them is the arpeggiation of an augmented chord, which feels major but also feels weird. And that's because rather than the top note being put down a half step, it's raised up a half step, and that creates symmetry of 4 spaces apart evenly also. But because it does have what we perceive as 2 major intervals in it, it doesn't feel quite as harsh. And a lot of composers have used this to create that sense of wonder as well. A combination of augmented and Lydian tends to do that. And how do they do it? They typically use high woodwinds, and they have them arpeggiate that augmented chord like this. And in that theme, you can definitely hear that going on. Finally, one of the biggest musical tropes, and not the first time in the Star Trek universe that this has been used, is the Neapolitan chord. What the Neapolitan chord is it's a chord that sits a half step, 1 step away from the root key. It occurs in Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. It occurs in John Williams's Raiders March from Raiders in the Lost Ark. And the precedent for it in the Star Trek universe, the ending of the Star Trek film that Michael Giacchino scored. And all it does is it takes this flat second, this Neapolitan chord, when it modulates to the 5 chord, it takes something that feels uncentered and then makes it very centered. The movement is a tritone. Again, the same interval that I've been exploring this whole time. But that interval exists between 2 different notes that gives us this feeling of like, oh, it needs to resolve somewhere, to, oh, it's resolving somewhere. And that occurs at the end of this theme. It sounds like this. So there you go. I know I've been super long. I apologize for taking up so much of the podcast time. If this even makes it, I don't know. You guys may want to just cut it because it's too long. At any rate, thanks for doing the podcast on this. I will listen. I promise. I will try to contribute musically when I can in the future. Really dug the episode. Take care.
Fantastic as always, Matt. That's great to hear your thoughts about the music.
Yeah, thank you, Matt, for that really sort of deep dive into what you were describing as Jean-Luc and Riker's theme.
Mm-hmm.
If it is, but it's useful where it comes in the episode. So let's see in episode 2 whether there's similar type of thing. I'd have to go back and watch it effectively.
Yeah.
But also, just to touch on your point, I certainly miss the old theme to Picard as well.
With that, yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly a bubbling of nostalgia with the sort of nod to the Next Generation's tunes. But I thought Picard's theme was really, really good.
So good. I had to go back and watch one of the episodes from Picard just to catch the theme again because I loved it so much.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm going to jump in and say, like, one of the things I love about your feedback is always there's parts I just never thought about. Mm-hmm. And again, a certain theme song or an opening usually rings true, but sometimes I completely miss the in-episode scores and moments. So again, hearing you break it down is fantastic. I was actually also just saying to Derek and John before we were off air, it was like, I do miss the season 1 opening of Picard. It's now ingrained as a very much a staple in the Star Trek universe for me. Very much like the Next Generation. It's just there, or the Discovery one. So not hearing it here or hearing this very different variation now in season 3, I'm like, oh, I kind of just, there somewhat. So I'm assuming they may kind of maybe sprinkle it in later in the season.
Yeah. I kind of get the feeling because this is the final season of Picard and because they're calling the episodes part 1, part 2, it's not, it feels like they're kind of going, okay, we tried something. You didn't like season 1 and 2. Come back to season 3. It's like the Next Generation again. We're bringing back all the characters you like. Yeah. We're bringing back the theme. Don't worry about that story. Raffi will get you up to speed with her as the season goes on. But don't worry. You come and join us. Have some nostalgic fun with your old friends. Here's the theme you liked beforehand. But you're right, Chris. As we said as well, yeah, we're all missing that theme from Picard.
Great stuff.
So yeah, thanks so much, Matt, for your thoughts. Hopefully we'll get some more musical feedback towards the end of the season. Hope you've been enjoying the podcast too.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, fellow Trekkies, for all that feedback. Great stuff. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much for joining us. We hope you stay subscribed to the podcast. And if you enjoy what you hear, why not share it with your friends, family, and Federation aliens? Because, of course, what is it, lads? Sharing the podcast is, of course,
sharing the love. Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's podcast. Again, loads of other stuff that we're covering as well. The Last of Us, episode 7 will be out next week. The Bad Batch, episode 11 of 15, I think, is out next week as well. And of course, we'll be back next week with Star Trek Picard, season 3, episode 3, 17 seconds.
Yes. And it will be only 1,568 million seconds from now. Da-da! Don't quote me on the facts there.
It depends on when you're listening to the podcast, fellow Trekkies. It could be exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and we can't wait to speak to you again soon.
Yes, bye-bye, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. Can't wait to speak to you next time, all about episode 3. But in the meantime, of course, keep watching, keep listening, and keep trekking.
Bye.
Bye.